The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
Good morning and welcome to Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I am Rebecca Miller and I'm here today along with Otto Lohse, who is our wonderful permanent co-host, and also Kristina, who is the radio show producer, and also the Director of Senior Citizen Affairs for Project Independence. And our special guest for our first two segments is Supervisor Jennifer DeSena. So I would love to welcome you all. Today is a very, very special show. It is our 11th anniversary celebration of Project Independence and You. And we're just going to get started. So I know Kristina has some guests coming on later, and we really look forward to talking about the show historically and also currently. So stay tuned for a really great show. And just really starting now with Supervisor DeSena. So good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me to a special episode. I'm really honored to be here for your 11th anniversary.
Hey,
and congratulations. Obviously, you're doing a great job. That's why you're still doing it 11 years later.
Could I start this off with a little bit of a light side? Jen, a lot of people don't know, including me. How about giving us a little bit of a background of your early life, like where you grew up, where'd you go to kindergarten?
Oh my goodness, whoa.
School after that.
Kindergarten, we're gonna run out of time.
Your early years, in other words, before you got into
I'd love to.
politics.
I grew up in Massapequa, so I live in North Hempstead now, but I'm a town of Oyster Bay person at some level. But I grew up in Massapequa. My parents are still there. I'm the oldest of four, so I became a bit of a rule follower. I went to Boston College. I went to Massapequa High School, then Boston College. That's where I met my husband, Ralph. We're married 25 years. We actually celebrated a vow renewal on Valentine's Day this year in Town Hall. Yes. So Boston College, then St. John's Law School, where I met a lot of people. And St. John's grads go into public service. They're a Vincentian school, and they're really focused on public service. So I'm amazed at how many people who I meet who are in government and other public service who are my colleagues from my classmates from St. John's Law School. Then I worked at a law firm called Mound, Cotton and Woolen doing litigation. And then I worked for the Securities and Exchange Commission in its enforcement division. So that was a really fun job. But I was fortunate when I had my first son that I was able to take some time off and stayed home, had another son, stayed home with my two boys, Robert and Michael. And just, was so grateful for the community I live in the town of North Hempstead and particularly Manhasset, that I just stayed involved in a lot of nonprofits, the schools, the civic associations, the Manhasset Women's Coalition Against Breast Cancer, and finally the Manhasset Coalition Against Substance Abuse, which I was the executive director of for 5 years. And it was as those 5 years were coming to an end and my boys were about to go to college, leaving me with an empty nest, this job of supervisor suddenly became open. And I thought, it's time for me to give back even more. It's time for me to work full time. And this is a full-time job. This is 7 days a week. So, but it's perfect for me because I had that time at home with my family. And now I'm really enjoying getting all around the town. We have a very diverse, very active town. And what you do in Project Independence is so wonderful for keeping our seniors here. I mean, we all know Nassau County is an expensive place to live, but at least with the programs you have and the connections that you provide, our seniors don't feel alone, and they can learn how to stay healthy. They connect. And, my last job was all about mental health as well as physical health. So I know that the connections and the programs that you're providing are lifesavers, especially, who knew we were going to have this pandemic? But I mean, your programs have been lifesavers and continue to be for our seniors who want to stay on Long Island. I mean, look, it's fall and we have beautiful fall weather and the change of seasons, much as I'm sad that summer's over, I have to admit that the seasons make us really grateful for, a change and what comes next. So, the town of North Hempstead is such a great place to live. And I'm so glad that, you're able to help our seniors stay here.
This is your
Wow.
first time really in politics then?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, it's my first time in government, but unfortunately politics is involved and that's another whole thing. But, to be able to serve, people say all the time, your job looks so hard, but I have an incredible team and we have an incredible staff at the town of North Hempstead. I don't do all the work. We have incredible commissioners and department heads and staff who love their jobs, especially Project Independence. But it's such an honor to represent the people of the town of North Hempstead. And I get invited to incredible places, civic organizations, religious organizations, firemen, scouts, there's so many leaders of the community out there. And, I get to go and thank them and bring proclamations. I see what they're doing. I see how they're helping people. And I can't think of a better job, more that has more honor involved. So yes, this is 9 months now that
Yes.
I've been here and I absolutely love it. It's busy, but I love it.
My perspective is always people who do what you do. Basically, people I don't think realize that your time is not your own. You're really at the beck and call of almost everybody.
Right.
And that's a big sacrifice, in my opinion, to do that.
Yeah, no, it is, but I did have time. I was fortunate that I was able to work from home while my boys were home, and I go to incredible places. I get invited to beautiful places. So even though it's not my own time, I'm learning so much. I mean, I could never trade this experience. It's incredible. The pace is busy and I do have long days. I just did 2 mini triathlons. I did the town of Hempstead mini triathlon and the town of Oyster Bay mini triathlon. And people say, well, how do you have time for training? And I say, my days are training. Every day that, as a supervisor is training. The days are long. They start early and they end late. So it's all training. But, so last Saturday morning, I was swimming in the ocean. So that was, sort of what I chose to do with my personal time. And I was more tired afterwards, but it was really fun. And again, that's physical health and mental health. For me to push myself a little to, get a race to do, you show up on a race morning and there's hundreds of other crazy people there, just like you who got up early and you're all out there doing it together, leaving it all on the street. So I love it. And there are a lot of good races coming up. The town is actually having one. It's an 8K. It's a brand new race. It's going to be at Clinton G. Martin. And in a couple, maybe 1 week, is the Manhasset Women's Coalition Against Breast Cancer 5K. And that's right here in Manhasset. And this is a race that I used to chair, when I was on the board of the Manhasset Women's Coalition. And I just think, Otto, I'm sure your girls have done it. I'm sure your granddaughters, have done this race. It's a super day. We have 800 people come out and it's families and they're running together and they're contributing to the fight against cancer, which is a scary thing, and for kids to feel like they're empowered to do something, to fundraise, to raise awareness of cancer and then to run together. It's a wonderful, wonderful event. That's October 2nd.
I take it you've always been a runner, going back to your
Yes.
youth? Or you're still in your youth. I'm talking about-
Well, thank you.
I'm
Don't worry,
talking about
doing.
your youth.
I do like running. I do. I like to be outside. I like to run in the winter. I just like to be outside, and I like to listen to music, and I do enjoy it. And I know I should be going to the gym, but I do love to run outside.
I think you
Well,
just need to take a yoga class and you'd be fine. Just to
I
kinda-
do need to take. Yes, I do need to take a yoga class.
It's just fascinating to me all that you've done. And in addition, you're doing these triathlons because the training is hard. And, clearly, as you were saying too, mental health is so important to our seniors and also physical well-being. And, we have seniors that may be able to go in a triathlon, and we have
Mhm.
seniors who might just be starting. But we like to, always say that you're never too old to start, right? I mean, you could do anything, even at home, from a chair to just start out by, doing a little breathing work and then maybe lifting light weights. North Hempstead Television, we have a expansive Project Independence fitness classes on there 7 days a week, and they're all for anybody in, any kind of condition. So what I was going to ask you too is, I mean, you had mentioned, your first 9 months. So if you kind of look back to that first month and, put yourself in where you are today, is there, it's exhausting, I know, but are there things that stand out that, where you, I want to say, just things that completely, kind of surprised you, and how, kind of effective government is in small towns and townships. So just kind of like your 9-month impression of the whole,
Mhm. Mhm.
your whole reign so far.
Sure. I mean, my brain is, things are flicking through my brain as you speak.
Yeah.
And by the way, speaking of firsts, my first triathlon ever was last month in the town of
Yeah.
Oyster Bay. So it is never too late to try something new and to say yes to something. So, I mean, obviously when I, ran
That's
for
great.
supervisor, yeah, I said yes to something. And it's scary. I mean, believe me, these days are scary. And there are a lot of days that I say, I'm not going to survive this one. But, one of the greatest days I've had has been the State of the Town address, which was up at Harbor Links. It's hosted by the League of Women Voters, which is such an important organization. They host these candidate nights so people know what the issues are and are reminded to go vote. So, this has been a great tradition, the State of the Town address. And the luncheon was beautiful. This year, it was really special, obviously for me, but for everyone, because it was the first time they had it in person since before COVID. So there was so much energy in the room, and a lot of great people were there. Our school superintendents, librarians, Chamber of Commerce presidents. It was a real who's who of the people who make the town of North Hempstead great. So I was very nervous, but also very prepared, and people were encouraging, and it was an excellent day. My parents made it, so it was a really special day, and really one that I thought, oh, I'm never going to be able to do this. I just can't. I've never done anything like this before. I can't do it, but I did.
Yeah.
So. We have a lot of great traditions here. I mean, of course, I think now of the Women's Honor Roll Day too, because that was at Harbor Links. And, these are women who have been nominated by their community. So, they're all special, very, very special. They've made a difference for their community. And to have them all in a room and have their supporters and families all in the room talking about them is so inspiring. So, these have been some really wonderful memories of my first 9 months. We're about to release my first budget. So next week on the 28th, we'll have a budget, and I'm really excited about it. We're thinking about infrastructure a lot. You know, it's about parks and roads. You know, I mean, really, what do people need? They need to feel safe. They want nice parks and safe roads. So this will be an exciting first budget for me, and you know, it'll be released on the 28th. We plan to have 4 public work sessions. This is, you know, I'm new to government, and I'm not afraid to say that. You know, I ask a lot of questions. You know, why? And I ask our commissioners, why? Why don't we do it this way? You know, why are things always done this way? So this is going to be a very public and open budget when we talk about it and ask why, and have the commissioners explain what their priorities are, what they wish they had, you know, if we could move the funds. So I hope people will tune in. They'll all be public. They'll all be, you know, available probably on the website, definitely open to the public right here in Town Hall. So that's going to be exciting. And then boom, we're going to be into all our holiday parties. So I'm really excited about that too.
Yeah.
You just brought up the word harbor links, all right? I go over to North Hempstead Beach Park a lot, and there's always been, over the last number of years, talk about doing something with that whole area. What's your view of that right now? Is it still in the churn stage, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you know, this is still at the way beginning. You know, we haven't done anything. That Bar Beach was transferred to the town of North Hempstead, you know, when John Kamen was the supervisor. So it's been a long time that we've been looking at that and talking about it. Phase 1 is described, and I believe the RFP is out. It's going to be pretty much just restoring the shoreline. It's, you know, shoreline protection. I'm looking forward to getting that done, to really getting into it, and then seeing what more we can do. There has been talk in the past about whether we can open a restaurant over there. I mean, it's a beautiful spot, and I think that people would like to have more dining on the water. You know, we have a lot of waterfront along the town of North Hempstead, but not all of it is open to the public for, you know, for dining. So I am looking forward to really moving things along up at North Hempstead Beach Park. We had so many great concerts there. It's really you know, a lot of festivals there, a lot of, you know, Italian festival. The Greek festival starts today. It might have started last night, but the Greek festival is this weekend.
If we could take a quick break. We have to take a
Yes.
quick break now. You're listening to Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We will be right back, and we're talking with Supervisor Jennifer DeSena.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
And welcome back to Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm Rebecca Miller, along with Otto Lohse and Kristina Liu, and we're speaking with Supervisor Jennifer DeSena. And Supervisor was talking all about, toward the break, just some of the great things that are coming up in the town, like Greek Festival, and just know that, and we've got the flyer there in our town, the newsletter. You can also call 311 or 516-869-6311 to get any information on anything that's happening in the town. And, you know, they'll be happy to update you. So Supervisor DeSena, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the senior tax exemption threshold.
Yes. This is very exciting. You know, Nassau County is expensive. And so people ask me all the time, is there anything I can do about the school taxes? No, I can't do anything about the school taxes. But we do want to do whatever we can because, for seniors who've lived here a long time, they're not even using the schools anymore. But I will say that the schools do keep our home values high because we're known for very good public schools, all our schools here in the town of North Hempstead. So something that we've been asking for that, our state legislators have been asking for is that our residents be able to have the same income thresholds as the city residents. We're right, especially right in New Hyde Park by Clinton G. Martin, you're 2 or 3 blocks away from New York City, from the Queens border, and the income levels were off. So finally, they passed some legislation, and this is something I know Rich Nicolello and Ed Ra have been pushing for years, that now we have the same level as the city, as New York City, for seniors and also people with disabilities. So it was around 38,000. It's up into, somewhere in the mid 50,000 now, that if your income is, up to that level, you still can get 50% reductions in some tax assessments. So this is on our town. We had to opt into it. So the town of North Hempstead will vote on that. We have a hearing October 13th to officially opt in, and then we'll be able to give, there'll be a little more tax relief for our seniors. So I'm excited about that. Every little bit counts, with inflation, at least gas prices came down, but still, the inflation is high. So every dollar helps these days.
Well, people who retired 15, 20 years ago, who had no, or 30 years ago, some people, basically you're on the same income you were back then.
Yeah.
There's no increases, there's no picketing, no striking, whatever. So anything that can be done,
Right.
Like you described, I think is very good. Let me ask you though, do you happen to know, is it household income or individual?
I believe it's household income.
Right, okay. And do you happen to know, does it include what, like IRA income included, or is there a way people could find out?
You can send me an email, or Assemblyman Ed Ra. He really pushed this legislation to find out, the details. There's certainly, we'll be having this hearing October 13th. And once it's enacted, I'm sure we'll be putting out more information, FAQs, to let people know, what income is included in that. So they'll see if it's helping them.
Okay. We lost somebody.
Yes, Rebecca's coming back on. She just froze, so she's just in the process. So this is,
Well, in the meantime, then we can chat. Well, you
go.
mentioned St. John's, Jen. My wife worked at St. John's in the legal department for about 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a gentleman there by the name of Herb Schwartzman. I don't know if you ever had a reason. He used to handle like interns. They would do the mock trials kind of thing. And he got very involved. He was a very good man. But, a lot of people don't have a reason to get involved with him. But I was just curious if you had any knowledge of him at all.
I don't actually remember him, but I was involved in the Mock Trial Institute at St. John's. That was a, those activities are a lot of work, but you get a lot out of it. So
was there a man Furlong?
I think I recognize that name. Yes.
Yeah, well, it goes back obviously.
And does your granddaughter go to St. John's?
She does.
Olivia?
Yes.
Yeah.
Olivia. Yeah.
Olivia goes to St. John's.
Yeah. She's actually staying at St. John's. She wants to have it as college experience, if you will. You know, so she's having a great time. She loves it.
Good.
And
And now, Supervisor, you had told us in the beginning of the show that you had quite the board meeting yesterday. You know, and I'm glad that you were able to, at how late it went, the fact that you were able to join us today is very appreciated. And so, is there any other exciting kind of news or updates that the residents should be aware of?
Obviously, we have, you know, some holiday parties that I hope I'll see the residents at. You know, Fun Day Mondays were a lot of fun, and I got to know a lot of people who I saw every week. So it's fun to see them in, you know, in a different place. What else? I mean, I hope people can, you know, check our website. Obviously, you've got your newsletter here. I'm excited that the senior groups will be meeting again, you know, at CGM.
Yeah, it's been so nice. You know, we've seen some of the groups have started to come in, and you know, it's just since for so long during COVID when the groups weren't meeting, you know, it was just, you could just see how excited everyone is to be back, and it's nice to see, you know, a big group and listen, they're quite the lively groups that go on at Clinton G. Martin Park. You know, since our office is there, we hear, you know, everything from singing to playing all kinds of games to crafting to food. You know, there's a lot that goes on, which is really, really nice.
Kristina, you see the groups at Clinton Martin.
Yes.
I belonged to an AARP chapter prior to COVID. And basically, as a result of COVID, it pretty much fell apart. You know, there were no Zoom meetings, whatever. And I think that there's a difficulty in getting some of these groups rekindled, if you will. And I don't know what can be done about it. You know, during that pandemic gap, things happened. You know, seniors got sick or didn't, you know, hear anymore or whatever. Have you noticed that at all?
Yeah, so I heard with the AR, I know that a lot of people have actually been asking questions about AARP. So I think they're trying to kind of get that up and running. So, but you know, it's nice. A lot of the other groups that are there, I mean, listen, CGM is jam-packed every day. You know, it's impossible trying to even like get space in that room because there's so many groups that utilize it. But it's, you know, this year, you know, it started a little last year with some of the groups, you know, meeting, but, you know, this year you really see everyone out in full force. And it's nice because, you know, you never know. We're always in this kind of limbo. You're not sure like how it's going to be, you know, if people are comfortable or not. But it's nice to certainly see, and it brings back that kind of lively aspect of Clinton G. Martin Park, which is really, really nice. So.
It's Clinton Martin. It's interesting in that it's not actually a senior center, if you will, where people just pop in and do whatever they want. So you either come in with a group or you don't, as opposed to a legitimate full-blown senior center.
Right, exactly. So, but it's a lot of activity that goes on. So I encourage everyone to check it out.
I think people are more apt to come back to the programs that are familiar to them kind of before. So I think we're seeing a lot of that. Certainly with the fitness classes, I've kind of watched it slowly. The first few in-person classes we had, it was very low. The sign up was low. And this time we actually had to move people to a wait list because we didn't have a space. So we are looking to grow. So I think there's still a little insecurity in some people, certainly, but those familiar programs, I'm kind of seeing people coming back to. Maybe newer programs right now that aren't as familiar, but I think in the new year, we're just going to see a nice return. I didn't know if we talked to the supervisor. I had a little technical difficulty before about the partnership with North Shore University Hospital.
No, not yet. We were just going to bring that up, Beck, so you're perfect.
Yes, obviously they're a great partner. They're having some flu shot drives in the next couple of days, I think. I don't know if you have those dates, but maybe we can get them by the end of the program. But, you know, obviously it's time to get your flu shot. I think we found even last year, people who got the flu got much worse cases of the flu. And I think it's because they had been home for a couple of years. We sort of stopped being, exposed to, regular germs. And so when people got the flu last year, they were much sicker than they had before. So please, everybody, go out and get your flu shot now, because it does take a few weeks for it to become effective. And so we are partnering with Northwell on a few flu vaccine drives. I believe one is up in Port Washington, and
I know there's a lot of drives that are going to be going on. I know through Project Independence's partnership with Northwell, we have 4 different locations. So October 18th, we have Port Washington Adult Activity Center. October 19th, we have Clinton G. Martin Park. October 24th, we have the Great Neck Social Center. And October 26th, we have the North Hempstead Yes We Can Community Center. All of them are from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., so you could schedule a slot there. It's free, obviously. And I encourage people to check it out. Just to remind people, the enhanced flu vaccine and the regular flu vaccine will be available. So talk to your doctor to see kind of which one is right for you for that. So call 311 to schedule
One of the
your
questions that the seniors would ask now is flu shot and the third booster shot. I've been told you can get them both at the same time.
Yeah, and that's something that there's, to really talk to your doctor. It really kind of depends on what everyone's own personal situation is. So it's not kind of a blanket statement. And we've been getting a lot of calls into 311 to talk to our Project Independence nurses. So definitely just call 311. We could always help you out.
Good, thank you.
One of the things that I noticed also is that with North Shore Hospital offering free Narcan and stop the bleeding training, that ties in a little bit with your previous experience.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Oh, I'd love to. Yes. And we do have a date I think it might be September 29th. I don't know. Kristina, do you have that one too? You're very good with the dates.
Yes. So the Narcan it is going to be, so there's 2 sessions. There's the first session will be Thursday, September 29th from 4 to 6 p.m. at Clinton G. Martin Park. And then there's 2 slots that day. So one is 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Then it's 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Yes. So I actually took this same class at the Yes We Can Center a couple of months ago. Really important. If you take the class, you'll be educated to talk to people about, opioid use. There's something called fentanyl that it has changed it. I don't want to call it a game changer because this is not a game. This is instant death. There's sadly, kids these days are college kids. They can't experiment with drugs like they see in the movies and maybe like they've heard, people tell funny stories, because fentanyl is the thing that is now mixed into fake Xanax, fake Adderall, also cocaine and marijuana, and we're not talking about addiction. We're not talking about people who have anxiety disorders. We're talking about one and done. So it's a very sad and scary time when, you don't even know who's at risk anymore. Everyone is at risk from one time. So, but you take this class and you will get a Narcan device. It's very easy to use now. It's just a nasal spray. You would have that, you can keep it in your house, keep it in your car, unless your car gets hot, wherever, is a safe place. And that can save a life. And if you use Narcan on someone, if you see someone who's, seems to be passed out or nodding off, you can use this nasal spray. It's not going to hurt them. If they're suffering from some other problem, if it's alcohol poisoning, it's not going to help them. But if they were exposed to fentanyl, this can save their life. So go get this free Narcan device and get the education that you need to talk to someone who maybe doesn't take this seriously. The second part of the training is stop the bleed. And, this is something you hope you never, ever see, but it's for a serious bleeding injury. And, they teach you how, you have to stuff the wound, you have to tie a tourniquet. And these tourniquet kits are around. People are starting to have them with their first aid kits. So they teach you how to tie the tourniquet. And I will tell you that one of our highway employees may have saved his coworker's life, because one of our highway workers was injured by a falling stop sign. He was cut on his arm, a very bad cut, severe bleeding. And the coworker had taken this class, and he tied a tourniquet around him, and he drove him straight to North Shore Hospital, where he had surgery, and he recovered. So I urge people, go take this free class. You can sign up for 4 to 5 o'clock or 5 to 6 o'clock. And, if there's interest out there, we'll schedule another one. I mean, Northwell's a great partner. They're happy to schedule more. So wherever we see the interest, we want to provide this type of education.
Sounds like a great program. And who can do this program? Is it anybody in the town? Or?
Anybody can do it. Yep. You should call 311 and register so that they have enough Narcan kits. So definitely register, but anyone can do it.
Right. That's very important. So make sure you register. And if you have any further questions with this program, regarding the flu shot program, you can always call 311. They have all the dates, all the sites. So anything that you need, any information, you can call 311. 311's great. 516.
We're going to take a break, Beck. It's that time. That's that time.
All right. So we will be right back with Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We'll be right back with the 11th anniversary show.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
And welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm Rebecca Miller, along with Otto Lohse and Kristina Liu. We've been talking with Town Supervisor Jennifer DeSena, and we're also celebrating this 11th anniversary of Project Independence in You. I know over break that Otto had a question that he wanted to run by the supervisor.
One of the things that you talked about, Jen, was the drugs, opioids and the whole thing. From a senior perspective, most of us are pretty naive. And I think it's important that we get educated. I just heard about someone, 22 years old, did one shot with something I have no idea what they're talking about, called a mushroom. And this thing basically sent this person into a tailspin to the point where they are now in a mental health problem, with depression and all kinds of other junk that goes on. And I don't know how you educate everybody on the planet not to do this, but that's a bad example of where what you pointed out, that it doesn't have to be more than once.
Right.
Experimenting is not a good idea. It's a bad idea.
Yeah, and drugs these days are very, very potent. When we talk about marijuana, this is not the type of thing that you might have seen 30 years ago at a concert, people rolling leaves and paper. It is not that at all. It's very, very potent. It's things called wax, shatter. It's oil that people can vape. So sadly, we have kids who are going from first time use to daily use in 6 months. So if you're a daily user of marijuana, especially some of these things are 90% potent THC, you cannot succeed. And so people will say, oh, but it's not fatal. It's not as bad as, as heroin, or it's not as bad as drinking. But you're in a state where you can't thrive. You can't go to school. It affects your ability to make memories. And for some people, this very potent marijuana does trigger other mental health disorders. It is known to trigger schizophrenia, which is very serious. You don't recover from that. You can quit marijuana use, and you can quit alcohol use, and you can be in long-term recovery, which is a wonderful thing. And this is still, September is Recovery Month, when we celebrate all the people who are in long-term recovery and loving life. But some of these other psychoses, we have kids having psychotic breaks from some of these very, very strong substances that they're experimenting in. The person you used, you said it was mushrooms, but it's happening with marijuana. So it's something you don't expect. And it's something to be worried about. It's something, especially if you have any sort of mental health need, get real treatment for it, get counseling. You're never going to fix it with marijuana. It's not going to fix it. It is not medicine. It is only medicine for, people who if you have chronic pain, yes, it can help with that. If you're taking chemotherapy drugs, it can help with the side effects of that. But it is not medicine for anxiety. For that, you need counseling. And you also might need an antidepressant. There's nothing wrong with that if it's prescribed by a doctor. But those are the things that can set you up for success, for feeling better, going to college, or going to some sort of training. But will set you up for success in life.
What you're saying essentially is that nothing's harmless. I mean, like
Right.
you were saying, marijuana is not harmless, and it could be made without even knowing that you're inducing something serious that could just, one time. So
Right.
you just have to be so careful. And, and it's true, there are some benefits, but, it's taken as prescribed only.
Right.
Well,
and careful is the word. And I feel that, adults and our government, I feel like New York State has been careless in allowing it to be promoted as medicine, and then, calling it recreational marijuana, and now selling it, by the way, the town of North Hempstead and Oyster Bay all have opted out of having retail stores that will sell marijuana, but it is legal to have. And I don't think that the state has done what they said they would do as far as educating about the risks, especially that you cannot drive. I mean, you can't argue that. You can't argue, oh, I'm a better driver when, after I've had a few drinks because I feel mellow. No, it doesn't work for alcohol, and it doesn't work for marijuana. And sadly, we haven't even trained our law enforcement yet. They've been saying all along, we're not trained to detect marijuana use or marijuana impairment by drivers. So, we've been seeing an increase in deaths on the roads, sadly, and I think we're going to see more. I mean, we really have to be more careful about drug use than we have been.
As seniors, you probably don't have children who are in that bracket, but you might have grandchildren who are in that bracket. And it strikes me that you really have to get somewhat educated to the point where you can communicate with your family
Right.
about the fact that this is not a toy that we're playing with
Right.
here. We've gone through the cigarette thing with what the hell do they call it again?
Vaping? Vaping.
Yeah, right, vaping. Kids still do that, and kids are going to experiment. And I think the point you brought out is super, super important, that this is not an experimental situation. You can really mess your life up by fiddling around with it once.
Right.
And how do you get that message across? You've spent 5 years probably trying to do that. And it's a tough situation.
Mm-hmm. It's very hard to get the message across, but I think empathy is important, compassion. You have to think, whoever you're talking to, you have to really think, well, what is the thing, what is the thing that they can relate to? So obviously lecturing and, fear, that doesn't work. It doesn't work with kids because they never think it's going to happen to them. So, you have to try and, get to their vantage point and talk about, if people who, are they buying Adderall from their friends because they think it's going to help them through their exams? 2 girls died at Ohio State this spring and they were studying for final exams. These were smart girls and they died while they're studying because they took Adderall that was laced with fentanyl. So people don't believe that, but it was in the newspapers. So, you have some kids who maybe they're just party kids are going to try something at a party. Nobody's going to be worried about that kid, but they have to hear this message that you can't experiment with anything. And then you also have kids who maybe are struggling with anxiety, or, and somebody who has ADHD or has anxiety is more vulnerable to addiction because once they try this marijuana or, whatever, it's going to make them feel better. It's going to help them. And once they think it's helping them, it's going to be very hard for them to turn to a more complicated help, such as counseling. Counseling is work, and anything that's worth it, it takes a little bit of work. So, but it is the safer and more reliable long-term benefit to, work through whatever the anxiety is, work through it. Don't use marijuana.
Well, I think that's, what I was like, listen, I think it's so important to have this kind of like open communication and dialogue with kids, and as you're saying, like lecturing and all these like scare tactics might not necessarily work, but to have a conversation like, we're having here. Mm-hmm. And, and I think it's great. And I've noticed that since kind of COVID, the pandemic, that mental health resources and different programs and hotlines, there's so many different things now that are out there that I think is just is hopefully going to pave a way for kids to feel more comfortable, and frankly anyone of any age to feel more comfortable to reach out.
I think there's such a not a good thing, but on one level, there's such a higher demand for mental health services today because of the pandemic. And I think that the stigma also isn't as huge when people, require mental health services. And I think that we should have mental health urgent care centers, just like for any other condition. Someone should be able to walk in and get the kind of mental health service that they need. So that's my idea. You heard that here first. Let's start getting those services at people's fingertips. Like if something's happening with, my son or a friend, or even if they're out and they realize someone's having some kind of anxiety attack, or, there's an urgent care center, that can provide mental health services is so important.
Well, Zucker
I agree, and we
an
do
urgent care center, but I think Zucker is one of the places that
I've
heard.
Yeah,
yeah,
and they're excellent.
Where I've heard somebody go to when they've had this kind of problem, but I don't know of any others.
Yeah.
There's 988 now is this hotline.
I was just thinking that, right?
Right. So we need more than 988. It's not the same as 911. When you call 911, you get the help and then hopefully the problem is solved. When you call 988, you're still going to need more help, but at least it's a start. And then, then you're going to have to start looking for the help. But we certainly don't have enough social workers for the mental health crisis that we're in right now, and that we will be in for many more years, post-pandemic. So, but I agree that we are talking about it. I agree the stigma is less. And I think that is because people know, they have people in their families. We all have people in our families who are struggling. This is not a foreign concept anymore. So I think talking about where you did get some help, I'll tell you, South Oaks out in Amityville was a great place that I have people who got help at. Zucker is great, and Northwell is opening more things that are with the school. They have a great place in the Rockville Center area. They're opening a new one out in Suffolk County. I think it's a great model. And Northwell is also they're partnering with more school districts to offer more mental health, because the school districts, they're overwhelmed. They don't have enough guidance for, the guidance support they have is wonderful, but they need more. So Northwell is partnering with a lot of school districts to provide the additional help that kids are asking for.
Yeah, I remember, my kids are a little bit older too. They're mid-20s, late 20s, and it's not, the pandemic isn't something that we could sit down with our kids and say, listen, we've been through this, it's going to pass, or it's going to be 2 years and then everything's going to be back to normal. We didn't know. So, I didn't even know. I usually have the answers for my kids for mostly everything, because I've been through probably everything that they've been through at their age or something similar. So, we have some hindsight, but when, what we went through with this pandemic, we didn't have the answers, and we didn't have the foresight or knowledge to know. No one knew what was going to happen. So, mental health services are just so important. And, I'm so glad to hear that Northwell is partnering with our schools, because, I have a lot of friends who are school teachers, and returning teaching in person is very hard because the kids haven't been in a routine. So, they're kind of like, I don't want to say running a little wild, but just because they haven't had that conditioning that they have in school. Yeah.
Well, one of our granddaughters is a social worker in a high school, and no names, but what goes on in schools is pretty amazing. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. You walk by the high school, you don't have a clue that all of these issues are occurring with kids in that school. There's a lot of kids have a lot of problems, but my feeling is that it goes beyond the teenage years now. I think that people who get into the next level, college and job seeking and whatever, seem to be now that's group of people has gotten bigger rather than smaller.
Sure. The suffering doesn't end at the teenage years. And I think that something I've heard from people who study this is it's a sense of instant gratification that, younger people have. Maybe it's because they've had these phones that, they always they want something to change now, and they don't have as much of a long-term view. And so they lose hope, that something will get better. That's what it's all about, is hope that things will change. If something's very bad right now, you just have hope that tomorrow maybe will be better, next week maybe will be better. And so, without that hope, people might do something impulsive, or, just might struggle with depression. So,
and I just think it all goes back to, and what is good that I do think the shift is happening in things is that, I see, I have a younger brother, and, I see my sibling, nieces and nephews. And I think what's good is that they're more comfortable now, kind of talking about therapy and mental health, as opposed to my older relatives who, listen, I have some family members who, like, that would never even be in their purview to go seek out someone to talk to. And, it's exposing your family issues, there's, but it's good that I see that now there is, and I hope that the more it's talked about, and as you said, having more social workers and just these wonderful programs and resources. We're really fortunate in North Hempstead and Nassau County, to have access to a lot of these great kind of programs, and we've had them on the show, and that's it's just great that we have this platform that we're able to talk about it. And I say firsthand, during the COVID pandemic, having this show where we were all kind of dealing with it in real time got me through it, so it's just something that's just so incredibly important that I encourage people to. There's all different kinds of things, whether you like a one-on-one kind of counseling situation or a group situation, or, you know, now there's virtual, you know, so there's a lot of different things that you can kind of find your fit, you know, which I just want everyone to always know out there.
You know, you used the words instant gratification, and I do believe that going back has kind of caused I don't know how to use the right words, but a little less strength in terms of dealing with some mental issues. You know, like as kids, you never lose in a sport now. You get a trophy, you know, everybody wins. And life isn't like that. Everybody doesn't win. You know, you lose sometimes, and you have to learn that this is part of life. You know, it doesn't always work the way you want.
Right.
Well,
and they say that's building resiliency.
That's
Yes.
right. And listen, we are approaching our break. I want to thank you so much, Supervisor, for joining
Thank you.
us and for talking about everything and celebrating our 11th year. And we're looking forward to having you back on. And I'm sure there's
Good.
going to be a lot of exciting new programs to come that you will come on and promote. And we always hope to have you on. So
Good.
thank you again, and be well. We'll be right back.
Thank you, and congratulations.